Hi everybody, and welcome back to my videos, whether you're watching on YouTube or Rumble or whichever one you happen to be watching this on. And I keep forgetting that I already made a separate outro for this that I'm gonna add, but whatever, so no big thing. So anyways, this is gonna be a follow-up to my last video, which will be posted probably a couple hours prior to this one. Okay, so it's going to be a follow-up to that video where I was debunking the claims that Candace Owens made about a text. Well, actually, more specifically, I was debunking claims, mostly claims that Candace Owens was making about Charlie Kirk's assassination. How she's how she's blaming Israel for it. And top it all off, she's using some leaked text message, which as of the time that I was filming that video, recording that video, were not verified. So I was skeptical of it. Of the authenticity of those text messages. Okay, so I didn't take it very seriously. Okay, so but here's the thing, though. As I said, I mean, Charlie Kirk may have had, and I think I even mentioned in that video, Charlie Kirk may have had, valid things to criticize Israel about. May have had valid reasons, but that did not mean that he was, leaving his pro-Israel stance. That does not mean that he was abandoning his pro-Israel stance, which, according to Candace Owens, was the motive, was why Israel decided to take him out. Okay? However, if you look at that text message, and then you look at, see, if it turns out that those text messages, that the authenticity of those text messages isn't a question, and if it turns out that they're being used out of context, and didn't actually mean that he was completely abandoning his pro-Israel stance, then that would mean that Israel wouldn't have any motive whatsoever to take out Charlie Kirk. And the official narrative, what would be so far, is true that the guy that we have so far, and well, you know what that story is, that Tyler Robinson. So far, the story is he acted alone, and it's still under investigation. He has no ties to Israel whatsoever, and Charlie Kirk's assassination was most likely linked to left-wing rhetoric, left-wing propaganda about how MAGA supporters are Nazis and fascists and all that stuff. Okay? So, a spokesperson, or a spokesman, whatever you want to call that. I'm not sure if spokesman is supposed to be a politically correct term or what. A spokesperson. But I'm just going to say spokesman. I think I put spokesperson in the description before I thought about this. But who cares? I'm going to leave it there, I guess. I don't know. But anyways, a spokesman from Turning Point USA has posted a video on Charlie Kirk's channel, the Charlie Kirk's show. And in that video, he verified the authenticity of those leaked text messages. Okay, and he said that he didn't want to mention him sooner because he was trying to respect, privacy. Because it wasn't his to release. It was a private conversation. And it was mentioned in that video that Charlie Kirk didn't have a secret stance against Israel. And he was consistent, both in public and in private, with his stance, basically. He had some valid criticisms about Israel, especially in the way that they handled the war that's going on. But he was still, an Israel supporter. Okay, see, supporting Israel does not mean you blindly agree with everything that they do. Okay? That's not what it means. Sometimes you disagree with some of the things that they do. Okay? And Charlie Kirk, as I mentioned in that last video, he was a Christian man, and as a Christian, he recognized the importance of Israel and what it means to Christianity. Okay? And that Christianity has Jewish roots. Okay? So they authenticated those text messages, and he may have used, in those text messages, he may have used languages that some might interpret as him abandoning his faith. Abandoning pro-Israel policies. But still, if you listen to, but there's like a snippet of that conversation, of that private conversation, anyways. But if you listen to his interview with Megyn Kelly, which they showed in that Charlie Kirk video, they showed a clip from that interview where he did express his criticism for Israel, but also made it clear that he still supports Israel. Okay? And I think there's also a valid point that I mentioned on that show that some people may have too much support for Israel, like with that Daily Wire, where I think the people at Daily Wire, they support Israel so much that they act like Israel can do no wrong. And then Candace Owens is on the other side of the extreme, where she acts like everything is Israel's fault. Okay? I think Charlie Kirk had more of a balanced approach to that, more of a middle ground approach to that, where he knows that Israel is not perfect. Where he knows that Israel is not perfect. They do sometimes act not in the best way. Okay? But he also says that they are still God's people. So that's why he still supports it, especially since he's a Christian man. Okay, so those leaked messages have been authenticated. And they are concerned, TPUSA, those guys, that spokesman, he was concerned about misinformation hindering the investigation. Okay? So far, from what it looks like, from what we know about Charlie Kirk's stance that was shown in that video clip, and they basically say that he's been consistent in both in public and in private. He showed consistency. His friends are that these people on that show that they knew him. They know. They said they read what it says was consistent. So that means that even though he did have valid criticisms with Israel, especially on how they handled the war, he was still a supporter for Israel. He was not abandoning his support for Israel. Like, he was not abandoning anything. He was not abandoning his, pro-Israel views as Candace Owens was claiming. Okay? And apparently, apparently, like, the worst people were trying to get him to not have Tucker Carlson on his show or whatever that event was. But he still did it because Charlie Kirk believes in freedom of speech. Like, he's a strong supporter of that. And here's the thing. And I believe what that was about was since Tucker Carlson seems to have similar views as Candace Owens when it comes to Israel, a lot of people didn't like that about him. And while Charlie Kirk didn't agree with Tucker Carlson's stance on Israel, Charlie Kirk also, they do share the same opinions on other things. They do have common ground on other things. So I guess Charlie Kirk and Tucker Carlson were still friends, especially since Tucker Carlson spoke at Charlie Kirk's memorial. Okay, so basically, yeah, even though they had a difference of opinion, he was still gonna let him speak. Okay, and I guess that his support, because he wasn't gonna speak on whether the difference of opinions anyways about at this event. I mean, I don't think he was gonna speak about Israel anyways at this event. Okay, they had differing views. Tucker Carlson's view seems to lean more towards Candace Owens' views, although he doesn't seem to be as extreme. He doesn't believe that Israel had anything to do with Charlie Kirk's assassination. So I guess we can give Tucker Carlson that. And as of right now, there was no evidence that it does. It's just a blind, baseless conspiracy theory from Candace Owens, who seems to blame Israel for everything. Okay, and those texts are confirmed. Okay, so you can have valid criticisms about certain things about Israel without necessarily abandoning your support. Okay, again, supporting Israel does not mean you agree with every single thing that they do. Okay, that's not what that means. Now, maybe some people who are conservatives do act like that. But Candace Owens is on the other side of the extreme, where she acts like Israel is responsible for everything that goes wrong. Okay, so she has a bias against Israel, and she also claimed that 2 days before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, he had privately shared that he was going to start publicly come out against Israel. Something to that effect. That's what Candace Owens was claiming. But it's easy to say stuff like that when Charlie Kirk is no longer with us. And especially when there's when we have video footage of him completely sharing what his stance is with that. And friends and family saying that he was consistent with it. Both in public and in private. So there was no new information. So even though this right here is authenticated, those text messages have been authenticated, they still don't prove anything that Candace Owens said. They still don't prove Candace Owens' point. Okay? It is still debunked. Okay? So, yeah. And I would encourage you to check out the video, which the link will be in the description. Yeah. The video on the Charlie Kirk YouTube channel, where a few of the TPUSA representatives, they verify the authenticity of those text messages. They bring out, I think, one person who was involved in that. So, yeah. And basically, it debunks Candace Owens' claims about it. So yeah, that's it for this video. Bye.